The people and government of Afghanistan are thankful to His Excellency Boutros Ghali, Secretary General of the United Nations, and the head of the special mission, His Excellency Ambassador Mahmoud Misteri, and his colleagues for their continuous endeavors aimed at achieving a lasting peace in Afghanistan. The Afghan government also highly appreciates the valuable endeavors and the role of the Organization of Islamic Conference. The efforts of His Excellency Dr. Hamid Al-Ghabit, the OIC Secretary General, Ambassador Ibrahim Al-Bakr, Special Representative of the OIC Secretary General for Afghanistan, and Ambassador Nguyen Sai, the Special Envoy of the OIC for Afghanistan, are to be mentioned with gratification. We are committed to cooperate with the United Nations Special Mission in order to enable it to succeed in accomplishing its mandate. It is on the basis of such a commitment, as well as the realization of a historic responsibility on our part to defend our national sovereignty, unity, territorial integrity, that we have to point out some shortcomings in the endeavors of the special mission. We hope these shortcomings will be soon remedied. There were failures to, one, explicitly identify the foreign interference as the root cause of the conflict and to recommend effective measures to terminate it. However, Mr. President, it is a matter of gratification to see the recently issued report of the Secretary General, document A/50/908, addresses in its paragraph 17 to the foreign interference as one of the outstanding causes of the continuation of the conflict. Two, identify and observe a logical sequence of the stages of the peace process on a pragmatic and realistic basis, which should include a transitional period required for a political process to generate an overall negotiated settlement. Three, adequately and timely identify the true nature of the mercenaries called Taliban at the time of their emergence in September of 1994, and subsequently, when their objectives became clear in early 1995, to reveal their well-known foreign linkage. Mr. President, having a glance at the earlier peacemaking activities of the United Nations and the other areas of the world, such as Cambodia, Angola, El Salvador, etc., we realize that there is, to some degree, a unified pattern of peacemaking operation that has been carried out step by step. The first step in all these patterns, as we have stated during the last General Assembly, is to distinguish the status of the parties in an internal conflict, namely the government and the insurgent forces. This allows to ascertain their views on a negotiated political settlement. In the whole process, the United Nations mission needs to maintain its strict impartiality. Generally, the continuous contacts and delicate negotiations with the main actors lead to a formal agreement among the parties, which usually include, inter alia, two chapters, political and military. The political chapter includes agreements on immediate ceasefire, structure of power during the transition period, transfer of power, electoral law, holding of elections, and adoption of a constitution, etc. The military chapter of such an agreement generally deals with disengagements and the demobilization of irregular forces and building of a national security force. We understand that the United Nations, as an honest broker in all peacemaking operations, after securing a genuine positive national environment conducive to peace, develop a practical and pragmatical approach to ensure an overall agreement and to supervise its implementation. However, in Afghanistan, it seems that the United Nations Special Mission, in spite of rich experiences of the United Nations peacemaking activities in the past, in the absence of a political agreement and of due consideration to imperative elements and factors to a peaceful political process, has, in the past, been only emphasizing on one element, namely the transfer of power. This approach may give one the impression that the mission had lost the sight of other major elements and stages as basic components of a peace process, as prerequisites for a durable, just, and credible political settlement. Mr. President, the Afghan government has welcomed the strengthening of the special mission of the United Nations through the appointment of 4 new advisors to directly assist Ambassador Mistiri and his highly arduous and complex tasks. The peace process in Afghanistan, due to its intricate nature, would be better facilitated if the mission enjoys the experience and technical advice of such an outstanding group of experts. However, the failure of the special mission to identify the actual stumbling block on the way of the United Nations peace endeavors has always been one of the causes of delaying the momentum of the peace process. For instance, Taliban leaders on different occasions castigated the United Nations role in Afghanistan as futile and vain. They have also rejected any form of negotiation with the government. As recent as last week, with the help of Pakistani circles, the Taliban convened a gathering called Shura, or Council, in Kandahar. It is with dismay, Mr. President, to note once again that, according to reliable reports, at 9:30 a.m. of March 29, 1996, a Pakistani military transport airplane 143 type, departing from Karachi, landed at Kandahar airport, bringing a political and intelligence Pakistani delegation who took part in the organization and the convening of the said council. In addition, the participants to this Shura, or council, were brought to Kandahar by airplanes and trucks from Pakistan. This gathering was held with arrogance and without the participation of any of the main Afghan groups. The final resolution of Kandahar Council on April 3, 1996, declared Akhund Mullah Muhammad Omar, the nominal head of the Taliban, as, quote, Amirul Mu'mineen, unquote, which means the ruler of the faithful, a title not claimed since the end of the Ottoman Caliphate in Istanbul. The content of this decision insinuates to the pretensions of the Taliban to extend their rule not only on Afghanistan, but on its neighboring Islamic countries. This burlesque and extravagant meeting was condemned not only by the Afghan government, but also by the opposition other than Taliban. Mr. President, all along, the dogmatic abstain of the Taliban from negotiations, we believe, lies mostly upon their grasp of firepower, constantly provided them by the Pakistani intelligence circles, typified among numerous counts by the reports, recipients, and the recent weeks of the Taliban of new Pakistan long-range rockets. Mr. President, as large as a city like Kabul, the capital, home to over 1 million innocent citizens doomed to horrible bereavements, gives testimony to the crimes of the Taliban, who every day opens new files of atrocities. In the past, the Afghan delegation has presented counts on the violation of international humanitarian law by the Taliban. The following is a brief report of the rocketing of civilian targets in the capital, Kabul, perpetrated by the Taliban, which is a matter of serious concern, and it should be a matter of serious concern to the Security Council. 1. In late December 95, the Taliban fired over 205 rockets on the residential areas of Kabul, killing 25 civilians and wounding 47 others, while many houses sustained serious damage. 2. During the month of January 96, the Taliban mercenaries launched as many as 331 rockets on residential areas of Kabul, resulting in the loss of 60 lives, leaving 225 civilians wounded and 65 houses demolished. 3. Through the month of February 96, a total of 71 rockets were showered on Kabul civilian targets, killing 12 people and injuring 54 others while leaving 11 houses destroyed. 4. During March 1996, they launched 111 rockets on the residential areas of Kabul, killing 31 inhabitants, wounding 44, and inflicting serious damage upon 23 houses. 5. During this month, as many as 149 rockets were launched by Taliban, killing 34 people, wounding 114, and destroying 22 houses. In addition to the above, as a result of Taliban aerial bombardment on December 23, 1995, 33 citizens of the Kabul city were martyred. That includes 7 professional filmmakers whose production studio took a direct hit, as well as 9 children, and wounding 140. As many as 40 children are not accounted for. On January 28, 1996, Taliban bombarded central parts of the capital, resulting in loss of 10 citizens, while leaving many others wounded. On February 6, 1996, a jet fighter of Taliban dropped 3 250-kilogram bombs on residential sectors of the city. This time happily involved no casualty. Mr. President, elaboration of the facts above and references to unfriendly attitudes of Pakistani circles does not necessarily imply an intention on the part of the Islamic State of Afghanistan to advocate an antagonistic attitude towards the central government and the people of Pakistan. The principled foreign policy of Afghanistan firmly requires a sincere friendship and cooperation with all states and the neighboring countries in particular. We are of the conviction that such an atmosphere only would give our nation the opportunity to reconstruct their war-ravaged country. We remain indebted, however, to the fraternal, friendly Pakistani nation who stood by in our days of trial. This was a chapter of history in which the Afghan nation exerted to not only fight to defend itself, but far beyond countries situated on the way of the former Soviet Union southward thrust, including Pakistan, the region, and perhaps the entire free world, to be shielded from the potential threat. As we have stated on numerous occasions, we would like to re-establish a close and friendly ties with Pakistan. Quite obviously, this means ties are to be based upon mutual respect for sovereignty, national unity, territorial integrity, and non-interference in each other's internal affairs. Afghanistan, together with Pakistan, can play a significant role of strengthening and broadening the cooperation between all the countries in economic as well as cultural fields. We believe that an effective realization of regional cooperation, coordinated by the Economic Cooperation Organization, ECO, cannot be achieved without peaceful and cooperative relationship between the two countries. Mr. President, the Pakistani circles, in a barren attempt to justify their naked intervention of the ISI in the internal affairs of Afghanistan, have long been accusing the government of Islamic State of Afghanistan of receiving military assistance from certain countries. For the sake of the record of this Council, I should like to elucidate that if the government of Afghanistan had not felt committed to the preservation of its sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and the need for a perpetual non-alignment policy, no reasons to endure such sacrifices, pains, and rigors would have remained. For the government of Afghanistan, an aggressor of any sect and philosophy, either Muslim or non-Muslim, neighbor or non-neighbor, is regarded nothing but an aggressor. Afghanistan, as a sovereign state, reserves its legitimate right to seek assistance and aid of political, moral, and humanitarian of